Ever get that like sinking feeling when you're wrapping up a big project?
Oh, tell me about it.
You know that mix of relief, but also that okay, now what?
Yeah.
For those of us in construction, that what's next
hmm
can be well, a real roller coaster.
It can be exhilarating.
Thrilling highs when the contracts are signed, but then oh boy, those stomach churning drops when the work dries up. But what is, and stay with me here, what if there was a way to smooth out that ride?
Now you've got my attention.
That's what we're diving into today. This article by Owen Hager, Never Chase Work Again,
Huh?
Master the Art of the Overflowing Tender Pipeline.
It's an attention grabber for sure.
Right. That title alone, I don't know about you, but it's got me intrigued.
It speaks to, I think, a pain point, a real pain point in the industry.
Absolutely. So we're talking about building a system, a predictable way to keep those projects, those contracts coming in consistently. Now, before we get too far, for anyone who's maybe new to this whole thing, what exactly do we mean by tender pipeline?
Sure. So at its core, a tender pipeline is just a structured approach to managing potential projects. Think of it like a sales funnel, but instead of customers, we're talking construction bids.
It's about always having a clear view of what work is on the horizon.
Right. Not just scrambling at the last minute when things start to dry up.
And here's the real kicker. A full pipeline doesn't just mean you're always busy. It's about having choices. Hager, he really emphasizes that.
It's about being in the driver's seat.
Exactly. Imagine this. No more, desperately underbidding on any project that comes your way just to keep the lights on.
And there.
Instead, you're carefully selecting projects that align with your company's strengths. Projects that, frankly, excite your team.
And let's not forget, bring in the best profits.
Right. No more cringing at those contract terms because you're in a position of strength.
It's a complete mindset shift. With a healthy tender pipeline, you transition from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance.
Okay, I like that.
And it changes everything, how you approach negotiations, how you manage resources, even how you attract and retain top talent. It's powerful.
He uses this analogy in the article, Hager, about a full tender pipeline being like peace of mind. And in the construction world, let's be real, isn't that what we're all kind of striving for?
In this industry, absolutely.
But, and he's really clear about this too, it's not some magical, overnight solution.
It takes work.
It takes strategy, effort, a bit of sweat equity, wouldn't you say?
Without a doubt. It's about taking intentional steps and doing it consistently to build a system that works for you. Not some generic one-size-fits-all approach, but a system tailored to your business, your goals.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those steps. Hager, he starts by talking about knowing your market, really knowing it, inside and out. And yeah, at first glance, that seems kind of obvious, right? But what does that actually look like on the ground when you're running a construction business day in and day out?
So it's about being more than just a builder, right? You have to become a student of your local construction landscape.
So like, what kind of student are we talking here?
Think about it. What types of projects are in high demand? What's the budget climate like? Are there new regulations on the horizon that might impact your work? What are the trends, the challenges, the opportunities specific to your area?
He's got some interesting advice on how to do this, reading industry reports, of course. But I love how he also talks about, just conversations.
Absolutely. Those informal chats with other contractors, suppliers, even your competitors, those can be absolute gold mines of information.
Because you get insights that you won't find in some report, right?
Exactly. It's on-the-ground intelligence straight from the source.
It's like that old saying, it's not always what you know, it's who you know.
Right. But in this case, I think it's a healthy dose of both.
You need both. I like that.
And that leads us right into Hager's next big point, which is build relationships with decision makers. That's where the who you know really comes into play.
Construction is, when you get down to it, a people business.
It really is. Strong relationships can make or break a bid.
But we're not talking about, frantically networking at the last minute when you need a favor, are we?
No. This is about playing the long game. It's about attending those industry events, joining local business groups.
Maybe just grabbing coffee with someone you admire in the field?
Exactly. It's about building trust, real rapport over time. So when those tenders do come up,
you're already top of mind. I've even heard stories of companies so well connected, they're getting approached for projects before the tender's even released.
It happens more often than you think. But again, it all circles back to building a solid reputation and nurturing those relationships.
Okay, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. We're plugged into the market, building those relationships. But there's another piece to this puzzle. And Hager talks about creating a strong brand identity. Now, I know that might seem a little, I don't know, fluffy for some construction businesses, but I think he's onto something here.
It's not fluffy at all. In a sea of construction companies, all vying for the same work, a strong brand helps you stand out. It answers that question for the client. Why should I choose you?
Of all these other companies.
Exactly. Why you?
And I think for a lot of our listeners, it's important to remember your brand. It's so much more than just a logo or a catchy tagline.
It's the feeling you evoke. The feeling you evoke in potential clients. It's about showcasing your unique strengths, your values, what makes you different, what makes you you.
So how does a construction business do that, though? How do you cut through all the noise and make your brand memorable? Well, Hager suggests, and this is where it gets interesting, he says go digital.
This is where leveraging digital marketing comes into play. Your website, that's your 24/7 storefront.
It's got to be good.
It needs to showcase your expertise, your past projects, your unique selling points, everything.
And not just, list them out.
No. Tell a story. People connect with stories. Instead of just listing bridge construction as a service, why not feature a case study of how your team tackled a particularly challenging bridge project, highlighting the innovative techniques you used, the positive impact it had on the community?
Right. Make it real, make it human.
Exactly. And speaking of real and human, let's not forget about social media. Hager specifically calls out LinkedIn, and he's right on the money there.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love LinkedIn.
It's a goldmine for connecting with potential clients, especially in the B2B world of construction.
But it's not just about posting updates about, we're hiring or whatever.
No, it's about sharing valuable content, industry insights, project updates, maybe even some behind-the-scenes glimpses of your team in action. Show them what you're about.
Show them you're not just, building structures, you're building a legacy.
Exactly. You want to be seen as that thought leader, someone who is clearly passionate about construction, about the industry, and engaged.
Okay, so we're building our brand, we're establishing ourselves online. That's great. But let's get down to, the nuts and bolts here. Those tender documents, the actual bids themselves. And Hager's got some really practical advice here, and I think this is where a lot of businesses, they kind of miss the mark.
It's easy to get so caught up in the day-to-day whirlwind of running a business that those tender opportunities slip through the cracks. Or worse, you end up scrambling to submit a rushed bid at the 11th hour.
And nobody wants that. So what's the solution?
Hager suggests using tender alert services.
Okay, I've heard those, but how do they actually work?
Think of it like having a dedicated researcher who's constantly scanning the horizon for projects that match your specific criteria. You set your parameters, project type, budget range, location, and boom, you get notified the moment a relevant tender is published.
That's actually genius. It's like having an extra set of eyes out there. So you're not wasting time sifting through irrelevant tenders. You can focus your energy where it matters.
Exactly. Laser focus on those high potential opportunities.
Okay, so we've got our alerts set up. The tenders are rolling in, but then comes the dreaded pre-qualification questionnaire, the PQQ. I'll admit, I've been guilty of seeing these as a necessary evil, just another box to tick. But Hager, he has a different perspective, doesn't he?
He does. He sees the PQQ as an opportunity. And you know what? He's right.
So how do we reframe our thinking here?
A well-crafted PQQ, that's your chance to make a strong first impression. It's about showcasing your company's unique strengths, demonstrating a deep understanding of what the client's needs are.
I think where people go wrong is they treat it like a generic form, like just copying and pasting from a template.
Right. It's about tailoring your responses. Yes, have those boilerplate answers for the standard questions, but take that extra time to really personalize them. Show the client you've done your homework.
He also talks about having a dedicated tender response team, especially as a business starts to grow. Now, I know for some of the smaller firms listening, that might sound a little like, overkill.
Yeah.
But what do you say to that?
I get it. It's about resource allocation. But responding to tenders effectively takes time. It takes expertise, and it takes a deep understanding of what those clients are actually looking for. And trying to juggle that on top of everything else, it's a recipe for burnout.
And rushed bids, which aren't good.
Exactly. A dedicated team, whether it's internal staff or even bringing in some external consultants, it can make a world of difference. They bring that focused expertise and ensure your bids are top-notch, that they're consistent and persuasive.
Because at the end of the day, a winning bid often comes down to more than just, technical expertise, right? Clients want to know you're not just competent builders, but that you're financially sound businesses.
Absolutely. That's why Hager's emphasis on keeping your financials in order is so crucial. Clients need that reassurance that you've got the financial stability to see the project through. No surprises, no hiccups.
So what, specific steps can businesses take here?
It's about being proactive.
Mhm.
Regular financial health checks, having sound accounting practices in place, these might not seem directly related to winning those tenders, but they're the foundation.
It's like building a house on solid ground versus, a foundation of sand.
Exactly. One unexpected storm, and
All over.
exactly. But it's not just about looking good on paper for those clients. Having your financial house in order gives you, the business owner, peace of mind. It frees you up to focus on strategy, on growth, on building that killer tender pipeline.
It's about being in control, not just reacting to whatever comes your way.
Exactly. And speaking of being in control, Hager also highlights the importance of continuous learning, staying on top of industry trends. It's so easy to get complacent, especially when you're busy, but the construction industry is constantly changing.
It's evolving at lightning speed these days.
New materials, new technologies, new regulations, it's a lot to keep up with.
So how do we even begin to do that?
Hager talks about attending training courses, reading industry publications, maybe even partnering with a local university or a research institution.
So you're not just keeping pace with the industry, you're at the forefront.
Exactly. And that you're committed to delivering the best possible results for your clients using the latest and greatest knowledge.
Because clients want to know they're choosing a partner who's innovative, who's adaptable, who's not afraid to embrace those new ideas.
It's not just about building for today, it's about building for tomorrow.
And how do we show those clients, really show them that we're on top of it?
Well, that's where Hager's next point comes in. Let your work speak for itself. He's a big advocate for building a strong portfolio of case studies.
Because it's one thing to say, we're the best or we're experts, but it's another thing entirely to back it up with cold, hard evidence.
Exactly. Case studies, they're powerful because they don't just tell, they show. They provide that tangible proof of your expertise, your problem-solving abilities, the actual value you bring to projects.
Yeah, it's almost like the difference between telling someone you're a great cook and then actually, inviting them over for a 5-course meal.
Right. Let them taste the results.
Exactly. Now, are there certain types of projects we should focus on showcasing in these case studies?
Absolutely. Highlight those complex projects, the ones where you had to get creative, really overcome some challenges to deliver those exceptional results. That builds credibility in a way that simply listing out your services it can't compete.
Now, I really liked how Hager also emphasized highlighting those collaborative projects, the ones where you've teamed up with other businesses to achieve something truly remarkable.
That ties into another key point he makes about developing strategic partnerships. It's about recognizing that you don't have to be all things to all people.
Sometimes it's actually smarter to join forces.
Absolutely. Partner up with another business that complements your strengths. It's about creating a synergy where the sum is greater than the parts.
Now, let's be honest. Construction, it's all about, managing risk.
Always.
And partnerships, those strategic partnerships, that can be a really smart way to mitigate some of that risk, wouldn't you say?
100%. By pooling resources, tapping into a wider range of expertise, it becomes a win-win for everyone involved. The client gets a better project, and the partners, well, they get to take on those bigger and bolder ventures with confidence.
You get to punch above your weight class a little bit.
That's a great way to put it. And it's interesting because Hager really emphasizes throughout the article that even with the best tender pipeline, even with those compelling bids, the strong partnerships, you're not going to win every single time.
And it's okay.
Right. It's about more than just the win-loss ratio. It's about the learning, the growth. That's why he stresses the importance of following up and learning from every bid.
Win or lose, there's always something to be gained by taking that step back, analyzing what happened.
Absolutely. What went well? What could have been better? Did your bid clearly articulate your unique strengths? Was your pricing competitive? Was there something missing in your understanding of the client's needs?
Sometimes it's just not the right fit.
Exactly. And that's okay. Not every project is meant for you. But even in those situations where you didn't hit the job, reaching out for feedback, that can be invaluable.
So it shows the client you're not just moving on to the next one. You're actually invested in continuous improvement.
Exactly. It shows you're serious about your craft. And you can take that feedback, use it to refine your approach for next time.
I love that. It's like fine-tuning a musical instrument. Each tender, win or lose, you get a little bit better, a little bit sharper.
I love that analogy. It's so true.
And to help with that fine-tuning, Hager offers a really simple, but I think really effective tip, and that's to create what he calls a tender calendar.
It's about working smarter, not harder. He points out that tender opportunities, they often follow these predictable patterns.
Oh, like what?
Think about it. Annual contract renewals, government infrastructure projects that tend to get announced around the same time each year, or even just regular maintenance work that happens during specific shutdown periods.
So you can anticipate those opportunities in advance.
You're not scrambling at the last minute to put together a bid. You can plan your resources more effectively, allocate your time strategically, and really go into each tender with a clear head and a well-crafted, well-researched proposal.
That's brilliant. Okay, so we've talked about building relationships with potential new clients, but Hager also reminds us not to neglect, that gold mine we've already got.
Our past clients.
Exactly.
He's a big believer in maintaining those relationships. It's such a simple thing, but so often overlooked.
It's easy to get caught up in always, chasing that next deal, that new client. But a happy past client,
They can be your biggest advocate.
they can become a source of referrals, repeat business.
Testimonials, case studies.
It all ties back into building those strong, lasting relationships.
Because at the end of the day, construction, it's not just about, bricks and mortar or steel and glass.
Mhm.
It's about people. It's about trust. It's
Mhm.
about building something that lasts, something that matters.
And that's what I really appreciate about Hager's message in Never Chase Work Again. It's not about, some kind of high-pressure sales tactics or anything like that. It's about taking control, building a system that works for you, and creating a business that doesn't just survive, it thrives.
It's about having the freedom to choose the projects that you want on your terms, the projects that excite you, that align with your values and your vision. And that's a really powerful place to be.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from our conversation today, it's this. Building that consistent tender pipeline, it does take work, it takes strategy, but the rewards, they're more than worth it.
It's about taking that first step and then another one and another one after that, and never being afraid to learn, to grow, to evolve.
And to our listeners, if you're looking for more, be sure to check out the show notes for a link to Owen Hager's full article, Never Chase Work Again. It's got even more practical advice that you can start putting into action today.
Don't miss it.
Until next time, keep building smarter, not harder.